वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home, text number 11 onwards. Apina suhridastata bandhva Krishna devata drishtah shatta va yadva swapuryam sukhamasate. My uncle, so Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking these questions to Vidurji, because Vidurji had arrived in Hastinapur, and Yudhishthira Maharaj has received him, made him comfortable, gave him a nice rest and food to eat. So now he had to ask questions. My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of the Lord Shri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? So first, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he glorified Vidura, saying, Tirthi kurvanti tirthani, svantastin gadavrita, means you are place of pilgrimage personified, and wherever you go, because you carry the Supreme Lord in your heart, you make that place pure. So now he's asking about, the first thing he wants to know about is Dwarka and all the Yadus who are living there, as well as of Lord Krishna. Purport. The particular word Krishna Devta, that is, those who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Krishna, is significant. The Yadavas and the Pandavas, who are always wrapped in the thought of the Lord Krishna and his different transcendental activities, were all pure devotees of Lord, like Vidura. Vidura left home in order to devote himself completely to the service of the Lord. But the Pandavas and Yadavas were always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna. Means they were always thinking about Krishna, always. Thus, there is no difference in their pure devotional qualities, either remaining at home or leaving home. The real qualification of a pure devotee is to become wrapped in the thought of Krishna favorably. So that's another word that has to, and the quality that we have to make sure. It's a favorable thought, thinking of Krishna favorably. That is, knowing well that Lord Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead. So, favorable thought is also the easiest way of favorable thought is when we are thinking of how to serve Krishna. That is the easiest way. Because right now we don't have any sort of that kind of relationship with Krishna that we think of him favorably in that way. So in our case, the most favorable thought is how I can serve Krishna better. Simple as that. And the best service that Krishna also speaks about in Bhagavad Gita is one who gives this message, this knowledge to others. That is the best service. So those who are engaged in the preaching service or spreading the mission of Krishna, spreading the message of Krishna, they are the best servants of Krishna. So those who are engaged in that kind of service favorably, that's a sign of a devotee. So Prabhupada gives example. Kansa, Jarasandh, Shishupal, and other demons like them were always in rapt wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna. But they were absorbed in a different way, namely unfavorably, or thinking him to be a powerful man only. Therefore, Kansa and Shishupal are not on the same level as pure devotees like Vidura, the Pandavas, and the Yadavas. Although Kansa and Shishupal, they were thinking more about Krishna than maybe even the Yadavas and the Pandavas. But the quality of thought was different. Quality was unfavorable. So that's then they are not considered as devotees. Maharaj Yudhishthir was also always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna and his associates at Dwarka. Otherwise, he could not have asked all about them from Vidura. Maharaj Yudhishthir was therefore on the same level of devotion as Vidura, although engaged in the state affairs of the kingdom of the world. So while engaged in the state affairs of and the state was his kingdom was all over the earth, not even one little bit piece of earth. It was the whole planet Earth that he had to look after. And Maharaj Yudhishthira, as we studied previously, he was such a good administrator. He was looking after everybody who was born in his kingdom, not just human beings, plants, animals, birds, everybody he was looking after. And still, while performing his duties like that, he was still rapt attention, in rapt thought of Krishna favorably. That's quality of a devotee. So no matter what the service is, if he still thinks of Krishna, if he still is more eager to know about Krishna, that is real service. So it's not that when we are engaged in some service or even whatever job we have, and then 8 hours we forget about Krishna, and 8 hours later we are too tired to think of Krishna. Then that's not job well done. Text 12. इति युक्तो धर्मराजेन सर्वं तत् संवर्णयत् यथानुभूतं क्रमशो विना यदुकुलक्षयम्. Thus being questioned by Maharaj Yudhishthir, Mahatma Vidur gradually described everything he had personally experienced, except news of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. So, Vidurji went to Hastinapur after Krishna had already left, after the Yadav dynasty were annihilated in Prabhas Kshetra. And in fact, this was even after Vidurji went to meet Maitreya Muni in Haridwar. Then he came to Hastinapur. Because when he was when Krishna was going to leave, because these stories will come later on, when Krishna was going to leave for the spiritual world. So he was speaking with Uddhav, and then he called for Maitreya Muni. He said, Maitreya Muni is nearby. Let's go see him, or let's call him. Something like that happens. And he gives a message to Maitreya Rishi that you please give this message to Vidura. So he specifically called for Vidura. And then later on, when Vidurji heard that Krishna, even at the moment of his leaving the planet, he thought about me. And Vidurji was really crying, and he was, how could Krishna, of all the people, he was thinking about me at the moment when he was leaving for the spiritual world. And then he heard from Maitreya Muni the message, and there's a beautiful conversation that goes on between Vidurji and Maitreya Muni. And later on, Vidurji, then he comes to Hastinapur to meet Maharaj Yudhishthir, and now that is the story that is going on. So all the stories in Bhagavatam, they're not in any chronological order. So they are pieces here, there. We have to fit them, how it all fits together. Text 13. Nanva priyam durvishaham nrinam swayam upastitam navedyat sa karuno dukhitan drishtum akshamaha. Compassionate Mahatma Vidur could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, he did not disclose this unpalatable and unbearable incident because calamities come of their own accord. So, Vidurji didn't want to reveal this knowledge to Maharaj Yudhishthira and the Pandavas that Krishna has already left. And he thought, let them get the news at the time when they were supposed to get the news. According to Niti Shastra, one should not speak an unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. Distress comes upon us in its own way by the laws of nature. So one should not aggravate it by propaganda. But we like it. We love to give this juicy news, juicy gossips to other because we say, "Oh, I am just telling the truth. What did I say wrong? I just spoke the truth. That's all I did." But here, look at it. It says, "Do not even speak unpalatable truth to cause distress to others." For a compassionate soul like Vidura, especially in his dealings with the beloved Pandavas, it was almost impossible to disclose an unpalatable piece of news like the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Therefore, he purposely refrained from it. कञ्चित् कालम् अथावात्सीत सत्कृतो देववत् सुखं भ्रातुर्ज्येष्ठस्य श्रेयस्कृत् सर्वेषां सुखमावहन्. Thus Mahatma Vidur, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother and in this way bring happiness to all the others. So this was the real purpose of Vidurji visiting Hastinapur. It was to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother, which is Dhritarashtra. Because Dhritarashtra was still staying in the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthira along with Gandhari and Kunti was, Mother Kunti was also there. But his purpose of his visit to rectify the mentality of Dhritarashtra. And and you will see how harshly he speaks to Dhritarashtra, what kind of words he uses. Saintly persons like Vidura must be treated as well as a denizen from heaven. In those days, denizens of heavenly planets used to visit homes like that of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and sometimes persons like Arjun and others used to visit higher planets. Narad is a spaceman who can travel unrestrictedly, not only within the material universes, but also in the spiritual universes. Even Narad used to visit the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and what to speak of other celestial demigods. It's only the spiritual culture of the people concerned that makes interplanetary travel possible, even in the present body. So Prabhupada is speaking like, talking about Naradji, how he used to travel, and Vidura, he's comparing Vidura to that saintly persons like Vidura must be treated as well as a denizen from heaven. And Maharaj Yudhishthira did exactly like that. So Maharaj Yudhishthira therefore received Vidura in the manner of reception offered to the demigods. Mahatma Vidur had already adopted the renounced order of life, and therefore he did not return to his paternal palace to enjoy some material comforts. He accepted out of his own mercy what was offered to him by Maharaj Yudhishthira. But the purpose of living in the palace was to deliver his elder brother Dhritarashtra, who was too much materially attached. Dhritarashtra lost all his estate and descendants in the fight with Maharaj Yudhishthira, and still, due to his sense of helplessness, he did not feel ashamed to accept the charity and hospitality of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Although he plotted so much against Yudhishthira and rest of the Pandavas to kill them, but after all his sons died, Dhritarashtra was still living in the palace of Yudhishthira Maharaj. On the part of Maharaj Yudhishthira, it was quite in order to maintain his uncle in a befitting manner, but acceptance of such magnanimous hospitality by Dhritarashtra was not at all desirable. He accepted it because he thought that there was no alternative. He thought there's no alternative. I am blind. My wife has already she has already blindfolded herself. So where would we go? Let us leave the rest of the days here in the palace and accept the hospitality of Yudhishthira. But this is not what Vidura Vidura liked. Vidura particularly came to enlighten Dhritarashtra and to give him a lift to the higher status of spiritual cognition. It is the duty of enlightened souls to deliver the fallen ones, and Vidura came for that reason only. But talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Vidura attracted the attention of all the members of the family, and all of them took pleasure in hearing him patiently. This is the way of spiritual realization. The message should be heard attentively, and if spoken by a realized soul, it will act on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. And by continuously hearing, one can attain the perfect stage of self-realization. So the audience should be very eager to hear. Speaker should be properly realized soul, should be qualified, and then the effect will be the uh, one can attain the perfect stage of self-realization. So both the things have to be there. अभिभ्रदर्यमादण्डं यथावद् खगारिषु यावदधार शूद्रत्वं शापाद्वर्षयशतं यमः. As long as Vidura played the part of a Shudra, being cursed by Manduk Muni, Aryama officiated at the post of Yamraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. So we know from the previous verses how Yamraj got cursed by Manduk Muni that you did not act properly in a position, so you better go to earth and live for 100 years as a son of a maid servant. Yamraji was more than happy to do so because he was sick and tired of giving punishment to all the people coming to hell. Although he's a Mahajan, he's a Vaishnava, but his service is very difficult. So he said, okay, let me take a break from the service. So, and he posted Aryama, I mean, it must be his secretary or somebody, on his post. And then he came as Vidura. Vidura, born of the womb of a Shudra woman, was forbidden even to a party of royal heritage along with his brothers, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Then how could he occupy the post of a preacher to instruct such learned kings and Kshatriyas as Dhritarashtra and Maharaj Yudhishthira? The first answer is that even though it is accepted that he was a Shudra by birth, because he renounced the world for spiritual enlightenment by the authority of Rishi Maitreya and was thoroughly educated by him in transcendental knowledge, he was quite competent to occupy the post of an Acharya or spiritual preceptor. So although he was born Shudra, so it doesn't matter which family or as what Varna we are born in. If we have accepted a bona fide spiritual master or the spiritual master has accepted us, then the person can become an Acharya or a Guru. And this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anyone who is conversant in the transcendental knowledge or the science of Godhead, be he a Brahman or Shudra, a householder, a sannyasi, is eligible to become a spiritual master. Even in the ordinary moral codes maintained by Chanakya Pandit, the great politician and moralist, there is no harm in taking lessons from a person who may be by birth less than a Shudra. So a person could be even less than Shudra. It could be Chandal or Yavan or Malecha or anybody lower than that. The person, we can take lessons from him if he is self-realized soul. This is one part of the answer. The other is that Vidura was not actually a Shudra. He was to play the part of a so-called Shudra for 100 years, being cursed by Manduk Muni. He was the incarnation of Yamraj, one of the 12 Mahajans on this level with such exalted personalities as Brahma, Narad, Shiva, Kapila, Bhishma, Prahlad, etc. And being a Mahajan, it's a duty of Yamraj to preach the cult of devotion to the people of the world, as Narad, Brahma, and other Mahajans do. But so he was Yamraj incarnation, and who's a great Mahajan, who's a great Vaishnava. So from that respect also, Vidura could be an acharya. Anybody could accept him as an acharya. And moreover, um, who who has the audacity to not listen to Yamrajji? If Yamrajji comes as Yamrajji himself, who would dare not listen to him? I don't think anybody would be. If Yamrajji comes, you better pay attention to and listen to him. Otherwise, his associates can do lots of things. Anyway, so even yeah, even from that post also, he has all the powers to make anybody listen. But Yamraj is always busy in his plutonic kingdom, punishing the doers of sinful acts. Yamraj is deputed by the Lord to a particular planet, some hundreds and thousands of miles away from the planet of Earth, to take away the corrupt souls after death and convict them in accordance with their respective sinful activities. Thus, Yamraj has very little time to take leave from his responsible office of punishing the wrongdoers. There are more wrongdoers than righteous men. Therefore, Yamraj has to do more work than other demigods who are also authorized agents of the Supreme Lord. So Yamrajji works overtime actually in his office. But he wanted to preach the glories of the Lord, and therefore, by the will of the Lord, he was cursed by Manduk Muni to come into the world in the incarnation of Vidura and work very hard as a great devotee. Such a devotee is neither a Shudra nor a Brahman. He is transcendental to such divisions of mundane society, just as the personality of Godhead assumes his incarnation as a hog. But he is neither a hog nor a Brahma. He is above all mundane creatures. So the Lord and his different authorized devotees sometimes have to play the role of many lower creatures to claim the conditioned souls. But both the Lord and his pure devotees are always in the transcendental position. So Yamraji, even though he has this service of punishing so many people, or even though he had to take birth as a son of a maidservant, but he was always in the transcendental position of a Vaishnava. When Yamraj thus incarnated himself as Vidura, his post was officiated by Aryama, one of the many sons of Kashyap and Aditi. The Adityas are son of Aditi, and there are 12 Adityas. Aryama is one of the 12 Adityas, and therefore it was quite possible for him to take charge of the office of Yamraj during his 100 years absence in the form of Vidura. The conclusion is that Vidura was never a Shudra, but was greater than the purest type of Brahman. But in this incarnation, in this pastime, he acted as a Shudra. He came as a son of a maidservant. So I'll stop here. See anybody has any question or comment?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mata.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Puchiye.
Prabhuji, you said that Yudhishthira ruled in the entire earth, which is only about 5,000 years ago, which means that there were no countries in 5,000 years ago, then like we have 159 countries right now.
There were no country, but there were different states.
There
And
were so
all
many
this,
continents and all that, and they were all merged into the one kingdom.
yes. Yes. And Hastinapur was the capital. So they were different states. I mean, I don't know exact names because they must be mentioned in Mahabharata or some other scriptures. But the country was only one. The whole planet was one country. So they must be different rulers of different states, but they were all subordinate. They all under the subordination of Maharaj Yudhishthira. So, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.